Welcome, everyone, to Soapy. I'm Rebecca Buddig.
And I'm Greg Rikaart. And Soapy, of course, is the podcast for soap operas, a celebration of soaps, if you will, right, Becky
It is
Jo?
a celebration of soaps. And not only do Greg and I act on soaps, we love them. I mean, I'm a fan. I grew up watching soaps. I grew up watching General Hospital and All My Children and Guiding Light. And I mean, not Guiding Light. I was on Guiding Light. Jeez, Pete's Days of Our Lives. That's correct. And so when I first started in soaps, of course, I was on Guiding Light and I did not watch that one. But then when I went to All My Children, all of these people felt really familiar to me. Because I grew up watching them. But also, they became part of my family. I was on that show for a really long time. And I trusted them with my life, basically. What about you?
Oh, sure. I mean, especially when you're a young actor and suddenly you have this work family, they become so integral and so important in your life because you're going through all of these like monumental life changes, and they're the people that you're spending most, if not all, of your time with. Yeah.
Well, we had two actors. Let's see. I think we have pictures of them. For those that are listening, we had Tracey Bregman and Christian LeBlanc from The Young and the Restless on our show.
That's right.
And we actually, the interview went really long when we did it that day, so we edited it down.
We talked a lot.
And there was a little section that we felt needed to have its own little episode. Christian LeBlanc talks about his...
Well,
go ahead.
We're being very polite today.
We are being very polite.
Okay.
I feel like you were a part of this journey, so you should tell everyone.
Well, Christian
what we talked about.
Very candidly spoke about his cancer diagnosis and what that experience was like for him at work, where it was because of the attention to detail that so many of the people at work were paying to the way he looked and the way he was acting that a number of people were commenting on subtle changes, and he'll talk more about it. But if it were not for the immediate demanding of certain people at work that he goes seek attention, he might have been facing a different outcome.
Well, grab your tissue box, because you're going to listen to a very heartfelt episode of Soapy with Christian LeBlanc and Tracey Bregman from The Young and the Restless.
These people saved my life. I mean, that's how powerful they are.
Yeah.
I mean, they did.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Yeah. I mean, after years and years together, people show up, and I'm always surprised because it's work. You kind of used to it, but I mean, they did. They really did. I really credit them for that.
We love you.
Yeah, we do.
I didn't talk about that because I didn't know if you talk about
Oh,
that.
no, yeah, I can talk about the cancer.
Just having cancer.
I've been so lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, at the same time, Cameron had his, he had just had his bout a little before mine. And then, it's so funny when you hear that. I played that scene where they said, you have cancer as Michael.
Oh, yeah. Prostate cancer.
And they did a long, slow pull. It was like an actor's dream. It was nothing like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be. I don't think it was.
What was it like for you?
I have to say mine was so quick and it so intimately involved with the show because I was having nosebleeds, and so
we were doing a love scene.
Yeah, right. And then it got worse and worse and worse, and I thought maybe the nosebleeds were like Advil or something. Sometimes I would work out and take Advil.
Yeah.
It's a blood thinner. I had no reason to worry about anything else.
Right.
So it's just a normal thing. But they were going to a point where we have the restaurant, we have the GCAC, which is sometimes in shows where you have a lot of scenes and you don't want to move people. We're all in a restaurant. We all visit each other's tables and have these wildly private scenes in public.
Right.
So I'm sitting there and people keep coming up and I'm like, don't make me. I said, I have a nosebleed, excuse me. And I was stuffing cotton up my nose and they were so patient. And I came back out and I said, just don't walk. Oh, I said, poor Zuleika's coming close to us. Don't do that because you're just going to see cotton. I'm going to have to lean back so far to look at you. Just stay away. And then the camera was down there. I said, you don't want to. And so they were so patient, so good, but there was something, it seemed odd. And I didn't know at the time. They were much more worried about me than because I was just playing it off. You don't think in those terms. And then I remember there's a scene with Michelle. I'm expecting this one, and Phyllis shows up. So I'm having a love scene. It's blocked. I have to kick off my shoes in a certain way so that they don't kill someone. And I'm getting ready. I'm taking my clothes off because I'm expecting sex, but I don't want to go too far because I didn't even know that I had lost weight. I remember he put my wedding ring on me, my show ring, and I put my hand down and it fell off my hand. And that was the first sign of something odd, but it was such a quick. This all happened with the show. I was on the count, and I went, I need my ring. And didn't even faze me, but it was like, oh, okay. And then the next thing is my eye. There was a ptosis in my eyelid. So all these symptoms, if I had not been an actor and obsessed with having to show up and be in these scenes, if it hadn't happened like that, I would never have kind of taken the extraordinary action. Well, not extraordinary, but I went to the eye doctor immediately because my lid was dropping and I'd had LASIK, and that can happen. It's called ptosis. And I remember every on my History Channel, which I love when I'm a history freak, every old philosopher, history teacher who's just given up on looks forever because the life of his mind is so amazing that his eyes are drooping, there's hair coming out of here, and out of the ears, and they don't care because you know what? They have this gem and this gift for knowledge.
So
and I'm like, have I drifted already over the nerd level?
Right, but I had seen his eye, and I was afraid.
Curious.
I was afraid that maybe something had happened, like a little mini stroke or something had happened. And I kept saying, "You need to go to the doctor."
Was that your first concern?
Yeah, my first concern was when I saw the eye, and I was like, "You have to go to the doctor."
Because it had not only been that, and thank God I went in, because I went in for this. This is stupid. I can't. But this eye was turning in on itself.
Yeah, it was really.
Now I had made lots of jokes about this because I would do the groundlings and stuff about like, where are you looking?
Which one am I looking at?
Yeah, right.
And an ungenerous person calls it wall-eyed, and that's so rude. But I did it a lot.
Okay.
I was like, where are you? Okay. Oh, stop tracking me with that one eye. So all of a sudden, in a big way, it starts going this way. So that scene with kicking off my shoes and stuff with that, I'm trying to keep my eye away from camera. Michelle's coming in with a bunch of dialogue. I've kicked off my shoes, and I'm trying to not bleed. And so it's all done kind of very gingerly. And then I went to the hospital. I went to the doctor, my eye doctor, and thank God, because it was because I couldn't do the show if I looked that way. And people afterwards were saying, yeah, there was no doubt at a certain point it had crossed this eye. So, but in the beginning, people were noticing, like, So anyway, it sent me to my eye doctor. Said, you might go to a neurological ophthalmologist, which I never heard of. But having been in the hospital, I was like, excited. This is someone new. There was always an element of like, really? What's going on? There's a neurological eye
I get to see the specialist?
So I got to go to the specialist, and it was like a detective work. And I was like, what do you think? And he even had mentioned, can sometimes be a tumor, but there's this and this and this. And I got to tell you, that started, that was on a Thursday, did an MRI. They had that call on a Monday, which is like, just come in any time. It took me a month to get to the eye doctor. And like, come in any time. Oh, so now we're available? I go in, I'm admitted, and I have emergency surgery the next day. And that's and that's when we use, right? That's a long way of saying, how did you feel? Because it was such a quick rush, and it never occurred to me that it was
But you never
cancer.
felt physically.
No, I've been very lucky. I've not been a sick person. I've never, my health insurance wasn't used till even the last few years. So it's that kind of case too, but it was also like, he was interesting, and he was doing all the, I'm going to find this out, and I was like fascinated by the equipment. I didn't have any unease about hospitals either, which seems to be a big factor in hindsight.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then apparently, and they didn't tell me till way, way later, and I told you guys know that they almost lost me during the surgery. However, I woke up feeling great, but all the trauma went out. Because the phone calls were being made while I was just apparently that it was a tumor right here. Yeah, it's just very weird.
Wow.
So and this particular cancer does not often display as a tumor. It's as different people are, but this was a tumor in my sinuses right there, sitting on the optic nerve, which was making the eye go. So it's just a long way of like, no, I didn't. They stood in my after the surgery. They stood in my room. I was in recovery, which was fun. I mean, because they don't go, and I happened to find a hospital I only went where the eye doctor was. I didn't know St. John's of Santa Monica. I'd never been there. They just happened to have this neurological team that was first rate, that they had invented this process where they go, we used to be in the old, Stafford had this, where they would have to peel your face off a bit to access anything here. And then you'd have to deal with this wound in your hairline. But now these guys, this hospital at this time had the two guys who invented going through your nose and up into there. And it can do it all up here without any kind of wound. So I woke up without a wound, and you don't have nerve endings back where they did the surgery. It was in my sinuses. Your sinuses go all the way to the carotid.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wake up, and then they kind of said, they didn't tell me till I was in remission, but apparently they called my family and stuff like that, and it was like, we might lose him. And so that doesn't even, it registers to me through their reaction. I woke up kind of cheerful. It was 2:00. You never sleep in recovery, I don't think. And then it was all glass wall, and it was like happy nurses' aides, and they came in, and I remember laughing through most of it because there were such great people. And even when they gathered in my room, the neurological team, and said, this could be any number. They still hadn't diagnosed it. They just knew it had to come out. And they were like, it can be this one specific cancer that you have 4 or 5 months, and can't do anything. Or the cancer that I had, or a couple of options. But they said it in such a kind way that it still didn't. And I think the speed of it, I didn't spend weeks or days, and I wasn't afraid of the machines. It was like, an MR, where are we going? Are we going into the big tunnel? I do remember I felt like I woke up and I saw a circle of light with shadows, and I was like,
wait.
Oh, is this it?
No, I'm just in an MRI.
Is this it? Yeah. And then I was like, but then I felt that which I'd come to get used to. I'd gotten used to it, where they lift you and put you on the door. I said, okay, this is an MRI machine. It's not heaven. But yeah, I asked them later on. I had to ask them afterwards. But no, so it's...
But you had an amazing support system.
Where these guys came in, where people came to my house, and I remember Tracey was kind of there right away. Greg, who has a child and a family to deal with, and a bunch of people. And I remember at one point, I didn't feel like moving. I was just laying there. I'd just gotten out of the hospital. And they were talking, and I wasn't talking. Someone said one of the most comforting noises that they know is when they were a child and you're sleeping in the next room and the adults have stayed up and they're laughing and talking distantly. Yeah. And it is absolutely that. And I heard that after this moment. They were talking and the rhythm goes up and down and it's laughing. And that was all I need. I didn't particularly join in, but I was laying there and I thought that was the healing. It really was the healing. The people just being. There's a great quote, and I'm not a big Bible quoter, but when I was kids, they would tell stories, and the one I liked the best was the man who was being tested all the time, and he resents God, but he sits there, and he's finally beaten down. He's a holy man, and God's testing him. That he asks the devil. The devil says, "Let me test him again and test him again." And then he sits there, and his friends come, and they sit. They sit in silence without saying anything. It's the sitting. I think that may be where Shiva comes from.
Maybe.
But they sit with him without saying a word. They just, because what he experiences is beyond, but they sit next to him and they just are there. And I thought that was the most intimate description I've heard of a friend being there for you.
Sitting in silence is the most powerful.
Sitting in silence because you have nothing to say.
Yeah.
It has to be all nonverbal, and that is the gift of our art. Just to make a big old round circle, is that we can communicate if we are in our art We can communicate things that are above and be subtonic. You communicate things that people will receive because you have a common humanity and you are on the same wavelength in the audience or wherever they are. And you can move them to feel the same thing that you're going through. And that's what that was. And I had to think about it. But it's
you
also...
let us in. You let us in.
Oh,
You know,
that
that was-
I'm not a great one for that, but yeah,
You did.
they did, and they came in. They came and sat with me. Everyone did. They came into the hospital. They came into. I had a transplant later on. They came and sat in that.
That's when we found tea and scones in
Do you know that Cedar Sinai has another secret menu?
Well-
where you can order lobster.
Well, because he kept saying the
Meanwhile,
food isn't so good, and I said, "Well, what
Not
menu?"
to call anyone out.
Yeah, not to call anyone out.
Cedar
but
Sinai's
I
food
said, "Well,
is
what
just
menu are you
poisonous."
ordering from?" And he showed me. I was like, "No, honey, here, let me find it." And I found the
Yeah.
VIP menu.
So here's
for him.
Tracy and I in the isolation
You're a good
wing.
person to have
right.
around.
So I ordered
Yes.
scones and tea for us while he's going through
Honestly,
like the hardest
in that,
thing.
remember that room? It was like American Horror Story because it was
The
the
person
old
next door to
AIDS
you
ward.
was a little rough.
Yeah,
but yeah.
it was the old AIDS wards of Cedars is their isolation ward now with a whole
He was in
different.
isolation.
He was in isolation
I did
for a
it
long time.
after we did a bone marrow transplant, which sticks you in remission. But it's a long, drawn-out process, and it was 12. I'd never been in a hospital before. I'd never stayed in a hospital before. But they came, this one, we're drinking tea with crumpets. And then Greg, I can see.
I ordered off the regular menu. I just had a fruit cup.
Right? and I'm like, I know Greg's
You
coming
need to
because I got
call
him on
me
the
before
phone.
these
And I see Greg walking across the street, but he's just a bit, but I know exactly how he walks. And I can tell, oh, it's Greg's coming. And I'm videoing him as he's coming across the street. And I post it because that's all I have to do.
My biggest fear during all that was like, it was like not the height of COVID, but we were still in the COVID world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were.
Just terrified of like bringing a German
Right,
to
exactly.
the hospital.
And it was the strangest thing to be in the isolation, into that wing. And it's not modern and pretty like the most of the Cedars.
Yeah.
Pretty, the artwork and stuff like that. That was not the wing they put me
That wasn't
in.
the pretty wing.
I mean, on the 12th day, they finally, it was when my new my new immune system kicked in. And you have to wait because you're absolutely open to everything. But
Oh my
they
God,
could visit.
so crazy.
I mean,
That
you got
part
to
is
walk.
wild that they left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they
but
could
it
still
was,
visit.
we remember it was up until your blood count was a certain
Yes.
number, and then
My
we
white cells had to
yeah.
come back up. But until then, you just had, it was 12 days I had to wait.
Yeah.
And people wait much longer than that. And I was ready because you couldn't leave the ward. And you'd get up in the morning, they say, move, move, move. So I would do laps
Yeah.
with playing
morning.
Doja Cat to these poor old people. But, but it was 12 days. But that people
And the
came
show
and sat.
waited for you to.
Oh yeah,
all
they
the
even
time.
worked
So
me a lot
sweet.
between the actual surgery
Yeah.
and the actual, But I forget what I looked like, and it was so interesting. I was totally not body like an actor. You're even in your best situation, you have to be aware of what you are, your physicality,
Yeah.
what's going on. I didn't.
Yeah, you lost a lot of weight in the beginning.
I
Yeah.
didn't know the effect I was having in people, and I think Michelle might have been taken aback because she saw me early too, and you saw me the earliest. But I had lost 37 pounds.
Yeah.
So I kept putting my pants on. I'm going, what the hell? And then I thought, I'm going to go wash the car.
Your journey to recovery was swift. It was, maybe didn't feel that way, but it certainly seemed that way because I'd see you 1 week and then 2 weeks later, you were like a different person. And then 2 weeks after that,
Yeah.
like a different person.
I agree.
You are both remarkable. And
But his strength in getting through this last
you
thing
get
was
it.
extraordinary.
No, I mean, y'all, again, it's what we were just talking about. You show up for people on set. If you're lucky enough to be doing this for a long time,
Yeah.
most people spend sometimes more work time at work with the people there than they do with their own family because it's just the nature of it. But thank you.
Will you guys come back and visit us again?
Anytime.
Okay.
Yes,
Anytime.
and I will
much
draw
for
breath
coming.
between my speeches.
This is Soapy, and I'm Greg Rikaart.
And I'm Rebecca Buddig. And if you're listening or you just watched this episode with Christian LeBlanc and Tracey Bregman from The Young and the Restless, you'll see that Christian was really overcome with emotion. I mean, the part that hit me the most is when the healing started when he was just sitting in silence with friends like Tracey, and you were there for him too.
Yeah.
Which is just really.
It's what?
I'm kidding. You know what? I'm impressed by you. I'm impressed by the group of people that really surrounded him and lifted him up. And
well, you know, I think sometimes it takes a scare like that to make you realize how important somebody is in your life. You know, it's true. I mean,
oh my gosh, you getting emotional makes me want to cry. Ugh.
And something that I didn't get to say in the original interview is that I went to go see him very shortly after his diagnosis, and it was scary because he did not look well, and he couldn't move well, and he had lost a lot of weight. But then I went to see him 2 or 3 weeks later, and he looked like a different person. Like I could see the life coming back into his eyes, and he was putting weight on, and his strength was coming back. And I remember saying to him, hey, let's go out for a walk. It's really sunny out today. You should get some vitamin D on your skin. And we walked around the block, and he was able to do it with relative ease. And then we did it again 3 weeks later, and he again was a different person. And the way in which he was recovering, which he speaks to just about having people there to help the healing process. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it makes me emotional.
Yeah, well, I would say it's not just in a soap family, right? We're all in a workplace. I think I went through postpartum depression and anxiety, and that was really hard, really shameful. And I didn't share it with a lot of people when I was working at General Hospital, but I was working with Michael Easton, who played Finn on the show. We were in a story together, and we worked together all the time. And so I shared that with him, and he was really just a solid person to go to talk about what I was going through that particular day and helping me get through that period of time. He was like really instrumental in helping me
I'm glad you had
get through that. But
and you're not the only one. Maurice Bernard in his episode talked about
he was alone.
Steve Burton?
Calling Steve Burton. His wife was out of the country, and
Steve and Jonathan Jackson came and just sat with him.
And
did what Christian was talking about. Sometimes just sitting in silence and knowing that you are not alone.
It's pretty amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
Well, you put out, and I retweeted or re-Instagrammed because I'm terrible, guys. I'm terrible about technology.
We got to work on that for you.
Yeah, I know.
No, but we were curious because we know we are not. It is not unique to our jobs where a work family can rally behind you in a time of need. And some of you were really kind to share with us some of your experiences of having crises or challenging times where your work families were there for you.
I have one from Mary.
Oh, yeah?
She said in 2004, I had a below elbow amputation of my right arm. My coworkers visited me in the hospital almost daily. It was a 28-day stay with more than half of it in intensive care. They also had numerous fundraisers to help with unreimbursed medical expenses. And when I was finally released from the hospital, many of them were always available for meal prep or to stay with me while my husband and children were working. It's been 21 years, and I still have an unbreakable bond with quite a few of them.
Gosh, thanks for sharing that, Mary.
I know,
you were very,
thank you.
very fortunate. I'm glad your work family was there for you.
That's kind of amazing.
Yeah, we heard from Michael, who shared with us that he lost his home in a fire on July 4th, and most of his things were destroyed. And he's a caregiver, and the agency that he works for put him up in a motel until he was able to find a new place. And the administrative staff put together donation items and helped him get his life back in order. And
it's just, I don't know, you underestimate people, and then you go to work and you're like, people are great. And
Yeah, well, I think it's when you love the people you work with, it is easy to show up for them, right?
Yeah. Well, I thought it was great. I thought it was worth showing people, right?
I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Christian and Tracey are the absolute best. I hope you all have work families and real families who are there for you when you all have times of need. And thank you for joining us in Hollywood for this latest episode of Soapy.
Yes, and you can catch Soapy if you've missed it. Past episodes, you can watch it on YouTube. You can listen on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, for supporting our little show.
From all of us at Soapy, we'll see you next week.